Nah, hold on, rewind that. Somebody actually looked a camera dead in the face, admitted the meat was on the menu, and said her clapbacks go crazy and her lick bags go dumb. That's the sentence. That's the whole temperature of hip-hop's messiest week, wrapped in one breath. And the part nobody's slowing down to catch? A gender reveal, in a shoebox, at a park, while a grandmother 2,000 miles away is telling the internet her son looked like Andre. Code, apparently, for gutted. This one ain't a scandal. It's a diagnosis. And I mean that clinically, because scandals have shelf lives. Scandals cycle out. Scandals get replaced by the next one on Monday morning, and everybody moves on with their week. But a diagnosis is what you get when the symptom that shows up in the news is actually a symptom of something that's been sick for years. A diagnosis is when you look at the tape, look at the shoebox, look at the grandmother on live at midnight, and realize none of these things are the actual illness. They're just the fever finally breaking through the skin. That's what this is. That's why it feels different than the usual weekly hip-hop chaos. Because everybody involved has been in the ER for 2-3 years now, and this is just the week the vitals crashed on camera. Real quick before we get into the receipts, tap that subscribe, smash the bell, drop a like if you already saw the shoebox clip and need somebody to make it make sense. You'll keep this thing breathing. Now, let's get into it. Here's what actually happened, stripped to the theatrics. Late June into early July 2025, an alleged intimate clip surfaced online involving Jaidyn Alexis, Blueface longtime partner and mother of his 2 kids, and Chrisean Rock's brother, Chrisean Bravo Malone. Around the same window, Chrisean Rock, who reportedly gave birth to her second child earlier this year, staged a low-budget gender reveal that fans immediately clocked as filmed at a public park with what looked like a shoebox prop. Jaidyn responded on live, laughing through it. Karlissa Saffold, Blueface mother, hopped on her own live to defend Jaidyn, claim her son didn't leak anything, and question whether the footage was even real. According to Hot New Hip Hop, the fallout dragged in Jaidyn's friends, Rock's camp, and half of hip-hop Twitter inside 72 hours. That's the skeleton. Everything from here is meat. Pun fully intended. But before we start carving, one more layer on the frame, because context is doing a lot of work here that most of the recap videos are skipping. Blueface is currently incarcerated. That matters. That matters more than any single line anybody said this week. Because the entire dynamic, Jaidyn on live monetizing the leak, Bravo allegedly in the frame, Karlissa stepping in as the mouthpiece, Rock's camp mobilizing. All of it is happening in the absence of the one person whose reaction would actually reset the whole board. He can't post. He can't clap back. He can't do a paternity photo op tomorrow because he's not physically able to. So every move you're watching is a move made in a vacuum where the central figure has been medically removed from the conversation. That's not a scandal detail. That's the whole architecture. And once you see that, the rest of the week reorganizes itself. Karlissa isn't just a mother defending her son. She's the only Blueface-aligned voice with a microphone. Jaidyn isn't just a partner processing a leak. She's the only Blueface-aligned face with a camera. Everything they say is doing double work for themselves and for the man who can't speak. That's why the turn it into a bag line hits different when you factor it in. It's not just a clapback. It's a survival plan for a household without its primary earner. Read it that way and tell me it doesn't land differently. Let's start with what these people actually said in their own words before anybody's opinion contaminates the water. Jaidyn, addressing the leak on IG Live, per the Shade Room. My clapback go crazy. My lick bags go dumb. All I'ma do is turn it into a bag. Okay, she said what she said. Asked directly who was bigger between Blueface and Bravo, a question that should not exist in a civilized society. Jaidyn reportedly answered, according to clips circulated by all hip-hop, they're just different. It's different. Clearly. That's a whole essay in 3 sentences. Then there's the mother line, the one that's been screenshotted the most, via Hip Hop DX. I am very upset because I am a mother obviously, and that is definitely something I would never have put out. I would never have done that. So clearly it was out of my control. Half apology, half alibi. Read it twice. Karlissa on her live, aggregated by Wrap Up. From what the investigation that we've done, he didn't expose it, Whoever videoed it made it public. I don't know if she knew she was being videoed. It could be AI. The jury is still out. Every word in that sentence is doing legal work. Every single one. And then Rock, the one everybody expected to be silent, dropped this, per reporting picked up by XXL. Revenge, smash or not. I don't give AF. You still wouldn't catch me doing no-ish like that. Silence would have been louder. But she didn't want silence. Now here's what nobody's pulling apart in these quotes. The linguistic register. Watch how the tone code shifts across 4 speakers. Jaidyn goes street, casual, monetized, bag, lit, clapback. That's marketplace language. That's a brand voice. Karlissa goes lawyerly. Investigation. The jury is still out. Out of my control. That's a woman who's been in enough court proceedings to know which words survive a subpoena. Rock goes moralistic. Revenge, smash, or not. Casting herself as the ethical center of a story she wasn't accused of being in. And the mother obviously clause from Jaidyn goes maternal. A completely different register from the lick bags line delivered in the same 24-hour window. That's 4 voices, for brand strategies, for legal postures, all deployed by the same 3 women across one news cycle. And the audience is supposed to pick which one is real. The answer, of course, is all of them, or none of them, depending on the hour. Now stack it, because when you lay these beats in order, the picture that shows up ain't the one anybody's selling on the timeline. The leak drops. Within hours, Jaidyn's on live. Not crying, not deflecting, laughing. That turn it into a bag line? That wasn't damage control. That was a woman reading a room and pricing it. That posture matters because it flipped the whole narrative from victim to participant in about 6 sentences. Meanwhile, and this is the part everybody skipped, the shoebox gender reveal predates the leak by only a handful of days. Rock's reveal was already getting cooked online for looking, and I quote a viral comment reposted by the Neighborhood Talk, budget cursed. Then the tape hits. Then Jaidyn's laughing. Then Rock's cam starts posting. Hard, fast, and coordinated. That timing? Actually, hold on. Let me back up, because I want to be careful here. I'm not saying anybody engineered anything. I'm saying the calendar is doing a lot of talking on its own. A struggling news cycle for one camp gets buried under a scandal for the other. That's the mechanics. That's just what it is. And then Karlissa's phone call. The 3 a.m. one, where Jaidyn allegedly called her sobbing, per Karlissa's own retelling on live. That's the beat everybody laughed past. Because if Jaidyn's laughing on camera at noon and sobbing to her mother-in-law at 3 a.m., which one is the performance? Nah, that's the whole question. Which one is the performance? Push the timeline out further and it gets messy, eh? Because if you go back, really go back, to the origin of this entire ecosystem, the Blueface, Rock Jaidyn triangle has been operating on a 24-month arc where every quarter produces a story exactly like this one. Fight footage. Pregnancy reveals nobody expected. Custody threats. Livestream breakups. Reconciliation posts. Another fight. Another leak. Another live. The rhythm is so consistent at this point, you could set a fiscal calendar to it. Q1. Relationship implosion. Q2. Pregnancy or paternity beat. Q3. Legal drama. Q4. Reconciliation content or diss record rollout. Rinse. Repeat. Build the audience. And that pattern matters because it reframes what happened this week. This wasn't an anomaly. This was the seasonal release. Right on schedule. The only variable was who ended up in the frame with who. The mechanics, the leak, the live, the mother's counter live, the sibling assist, those were already in the calendar before the actual footage existed. Which brings up an uncomfortable question nobody wants to sit with. At what point does a pattern this consistent stop being chaos and start being product? Because chaos is unpredictable. This ain't unpredictable. This is scheduled. Zoom in on the shoebox for a second. Just the shoebox. I had to watch this clip 3 times. Not because it was complicated, because it was so small. The reveal, a moment usually staged with a plane in the sky or a room full of pink smoke, happened at what looks like a neighborhood park bench with a reveal item stored in what genuinely, unmistakably, is a shoebox. And Rock's on camera, smiling through it like the setup is normal. Behavioral forensics, this is the part that matters. Because Rock's public brand for 2 years has been I'm winning, I'm booked, I'm unbothered. But the shoebox tells a different story than the caption does. The park tells a different story. The absence of a co-parent in frame tells a different story. And the fact that her camp's first move after the roasting was to pivot to a leak about somebody else's business. That tells the loudest story of all. Now Jaidyn's ad-lib on the who's bigger question. They're just different. It's different. Clearly. That's not a woman who panicked. That's a woman who prepared. The pause, the clearly, the refusal to actually answer while pretending to answer. That's rehearsed. Or at minimum, that's somebody who's already made peace with the question existing. One more frame worth staring at. Karlissa's it could be AI pivot. Real talk. That's not a mother defending her son. That's a mother building a plausible deniability lane in real time. Different job, different intent. Push the forensic lens further, and you'll notice something else about the shoebox clip that most people didn't clock. There's no audience in frame. No aunties. No cousins. No hype squad. For a woman whose entire brand is built on a rolling entourage of loud loyalists, the absence of witnesses in the reveal footage is the tell. Gender reveals are performative by definition. The whole point is who's there to see it. Filming the moment with an empty background isn't a stylistic choice. It's a logistics report. And the report says, nobody showed up. Compare that to the Jaidyn live. Full frame. Ring light. Comment section popping. Backup laughter in the background. The two pieces of footage from the same week are shot in completely different production universes. And that's not accidental. Jaidyn had the room. Rock at a park bench. And even without knowing anything else about the week, you could look at those two frames and predict which camp was about to swing harder, because desperation on camera always swings first. There's also the matter of Bravo's silence. Because in a leak story with two people in it, the missing party's silence is doing narrative work whether he intends it or not. He hasn't laughed. He hasn't monetized. He hasn't clarified. That gap, the empty space where his statement would be, allows every other voice to fill it with their own version. Karlissa fills it with he didn't leak it. Rock fills it with revenge, smash or not. Jaidyn fills it with a smirk. Bravo just isn't there. And in modern celebrity crisis management, absence isn't neutrality anymore. Absence is a choice with consequences. His camp is either playing 4D chess or he genuinely has nothing to say. And honestly, both readings make him the smallest figure in a story he's technically half of. Here's where it gets interesting, because outlets ain't telling the same story. The Shade Room framed it as Jaidyn owning her narrative, to turn it into a bag, energy, the smirk, the empowerment read. Comments section, split down the middle. Half calling it iconic, half calling it a mask. Hot new hip-hop, meanwhile, leaned harder into the Blueface's humiliated angle. The framing there's that this is about him, his ego, his silence. Which is convenient, because it centers the man in a story where he barely spoke. And in the neighborhood talk did the thing legacy blogs won't do. They put the shoebox and the leak side by side. Same post. Same energy. Let the audience draw the line. Steelman for a second. There's a real argument that Jaidyn's response was the correct one. She got humiliated publicly, refused to perform shame, and monetize the attention. In a landscape where women get chewed up over exactly this kind of leak, laughing on camera is a form of armor. That read is defensible. I'll give it that. But, and here's where I lose the plot on the sympathy angle. Armor doesn't explain the 3 a.m. phone call. Armor doesn't explain calling your mother-in-law, sobbing, while your public face is smirking. The public performance and the private collapse are both real. And you don't get to pick which one is the true one just because one plays better on camera. That's the split the coverage keeps missing. And there's a fifth outlet lane nobody's tracking, the reaction economy. The commentary channels. The Kindle live streams, the funky Deneva takes, the TikTok slideshow explainers with the AI voiceover reading tweets over lo-fi beats. That's not journalism, but it's where the majority of the audience is actually consuming this story. And that ecosystem operates on completely different incentives from the Shade Room or Hip Hop DX. Legacy blogs need to protect access. Commentary channels need engagement. So the commentary lane is where you get the reads that the aggregation sites won't touch. The This Is a Diagnosis reads, The Karlissa is running defense reads, the shoebox is the tell reads. That's where the actual analysis is happening. That's where the culture is metabolizing this in real time, which raises an uncomfortable meta question about the ecosystem itself. The aggregation blogs are increasingly just conveyor belts moving content from live videos to timeline embeds, while the interpretation labor, the actual work of making meaning out of the noise, has migrated to independent creators. That's a labor shift worth naming. The blogs took the traffic for a decade. Now, the commentary channels take the analysis. And nobody credits the original storytellers because everybody's still pretending TSR broke the story when TSR just posted the clip. Also worth flagging, the international outlets barely covered this at all. This is a US hip-hop internal story, and the fact that it doesn't cross over says something about the ceiling of the whole beef. It's massive in a specific ecosystem and completely invisible outside of it, which means the participants are burning brand equity that doesn't compound anywhere else. That's a business problem masquerading as a personal one. Let's do a leverage audit, because everybody in this story either gained or lost something this week, and the media coverage is refusing to keep score. Jaidyn gained followers. She lost narrative control over her own body. Net, short-term win, long-term liability. Because the turn it into a bag moment ages exactly, as well as the audience's memory of her being generous with herself in a private moment she says wasn't supposed to be public. Those two things fight each other in her brand for the next 5 years. She'll survive it, but every promotional post from here forward has that echo behind it. Rock gained attention. She lost the shoebox war. Net, Pyrrhic win. Because attention without dignity is just visibility, and visibility without dignity is exactly the trap we're going to spend the back half of this script unpacking. The clips from her live that circulated didn't clear the shoebox from the timeline. They just gave people two things to laugh at instead of one. Karlissa gained relevance. She lost the plausible deniability she was trying to build. Net broke even, but the ceiling on her lane just dropped. Because it could be AI is the kind of statement that gets replayed every time she goes live for the next 18 months. She turned herself into a punchline while trying to be a lawyer, which is a specific type of loss you don't recover from quickly. Bravo gained nothing and lost his anonymity. Net, worst position in the room, because he was operating in the background of hip-hop's most volatile family unit. And this week his name went from Rock's brother to Rock's brother, comma, the one in the tape. That's a search result problem. That's a permanent record problem. And unlike everybody else, he doesn't have a monetization plan to convert it. Blueface, and this is the part that's going to age the most interestingly, gained the sympathy vote by doing nothing. Because he couldn't do anything. His incarceration functionally protected him from participating in the mess, which means he emerges as the one figure in the story who didn't self-inflict. That's not innocence. That's not vindication. That's just the accidental math of physical unavailability, and the culture will read it as dignity in retrospect, even though it wasn't a choice. The kids gained nothing, lost everything, and haven't consented to any of it, which is the part everybody's carefully not writing about, because writing about it would collapse the entertainment frame the whole news cycle depends on. Zoom all the way out. Historical parallels time. We've seen this movie before. Different cast, same script. The core structure, a public figure's private footage leaks. The partner is forced on a camera to respond. A family member steps in as spokesperson. A rival camp benefits from the timing. That's not a 2025 invention. That's the same rhythm as the Karuji, Chris Brown, Rihanna era. Same rhythm as the Black China, Rob Kardashian revenge porn cycle. Same rhythm, going further back, as Tamika Foster, Usher, Rosanna era, or the deep-cut Kim Porter, Diddy J low triangulation that ran for a decade. The template is private violation, public performance, family surrogate, rival exploitation, monetization pivot, memory decay. 6 beats. Every time, what changes is the technology and the vocabulary. The lick bag line couldn't have existed in 2005. The it could be AI defense couldn't have existed in 2015. But the shape underneath those lines has been running on repeat since the tabloids figured out celebrity was a two-way street. The specific hip-hop culture parallel that hits hardest here, though, is closer to home. Look at the K, Michelle, Memphis era. Look at the Amber Rose, Kanye rollout. Look at how those women were forced to metabolize private harm as public content, and then judged for the metabolism. The women in this Blueface story are running the exact same play, and they're being critiqued using the exact same double standard. Too emotional, they're weak. Too composed, they're calculating. Too monetized, they're grimy. Too quiet, they're hiding something. There's no winning move. There never was. That's not a defense of the choices being made this week. It's a recognition that the choices being made this week are the ones the culture has been training its women to make for 25 years. And now that they've internalized the training, the culture wants to critique them for being good students. Let me sit with the psychology for a minute, because this is where the story stops being about hip-hop and starts being about human beings. Jaidyn on that live laughing. That's a dissociative response. Not a moral one. Not a strategic one. A dissociative one. When the body registers a threat too large to process in real time. One of the primary responses is to split. The part of the self that's on camera continues functioning, while the part that's actually feeling the injury goes offline. It looks like confidence from the outside. It feels like static on the inside. The 3 a.m. phone call to Karlissa isn't the contradiction of the laugh. It's the delayed arrival of the feeling. First the smirk, then hours later, the collapse. That's textbook. Rock in the shoebox, that's a different mechanism. That's what happens when a person's public identity has been so thoroughly built on the appearance of thriving that any evidence of struggle has to be either hidden or reframed as intentional. The park wasn't chosen because there was no better option. The park was chosen because filming it at the park lets her control the framing later. I keep it real. I'm not fake. I don't need a big production. That's a preemptive defense of a moment she already knew would get roasted. That's a woman trying to armor a wound before the blade lands. And Karlissa is running a mother script that's older than any of these people. When your child is under attack and you can't fix the underlying problem, you attack the frame. It could be AI. The jury is still out. He didn't expose it. Those aren't investigative claims. Those are protection spells. The purpose isn't to convince the audience. The purpose is to keep the mother's own sense of powerlessness at bay by giving her something to do. And going live over and over is the doing. None of that psychological reading excuses any behavior. It just refuses to reduce these people to memes. Because the meme version of this week, Shoebox LOL, Lick Bags LMAO, is going to be the version that survives, and the version that survives is going to be the least accurate one. That's not a hip-hop problem. That's a memory of the culture problem. The internet keeps the punchline and deletes the wound. Here's the business layer nobody's putting on paper. Blueface label situation, Rock's project pipeline, Jaidyn's independent brand rollout. All three of these people are inside monetization cycles that require attention as fuel. Rock has music to move. Jaidyn has a solo career she's been trying to establish independent of Blueface for the past 18 months. Blueface, even incarcerated, has legacy catalog streaming numbers that spike every time his name re-enters the news cycle. So the scandal isn't just personal fallout. The scandal is a co-branded product with 3 revenue lines feeding off the same story. The platforms know this. Meta, TikTok, and the streaming services all have algorithmic weight on trending drama. The moment Jaidyn's live starts spiking, the recommendation engine boosts the surrounding content. Her older posts, her music, her merch links. That's not conspiracy. That's just how the machine is built. And every participant in the story is either sophisticated enough to know it or coached by somebody who is. Which means when you see the turn it into a bad quote, you're not just watching a personality decision. You're watching a market response. Somebody in that camp, whether it's Jaidyn herself or an advisor whispering in her ear, has done the math on what a controlled response to a leak produces in follower velocity versus a silent response. The math favors the smirk. So the smirk is what shows up. That's not cynical. That's just the current shape of how female-fronted independent hip-hop brands survive a week like this one. The rival play from Rock's camp works the same way. Escalation as marketing. The louder the roast-back energy, the more the algorithm treats Rock-adjacent content as high engagement, and the more her upcoming rollouts get pushed to the top of feeds. 6 months from now, when she drops something, the residual attention from this week feeds directly into first-week streaming numbers. That's not accident. That's infrastructure. And Karlissa's lives aren't sponsored yet, but they're on the trajectory. She's built a follower base entirely off Blueface-adjacent commentary, and every controversy compounds her platform. She's essentially running a mother-of-a-rapper content vertical, which is a real career path in 2025 in a way it wasn't in 2015. The fact that she can go live in the middle of the night about her son's partner's alleged tape and pull thousands of viewers isn't a bug of the ecosystem. It's a feature the ecosystem was built around. Add all that up, and the who's the villain question kind of dissolves. Because the machine is the villain. And the machine only exists because the audience keeps feeding it. This is the part one keep coming back to. The gap between what these people show and what these people are. Jaidyn's Instagram grid, if you scroll it right now, is aspirational. Studio shots, family moments, product placements, music teases. The version of her life you'd assemble from her feed is a woman in ascension. Solo artist finding her footing, partner navigating a hard season with grace, mother of two building generational wealth. That's the grid. The live is a different genre. The live is the woman off script, laughing at questions no one should have to answer, monetizing a violation, code switching between I would never have done that and my lick bags go dumb inside the same 12-hour window. The grid and the live are two different women, and both of them are her. Rock's grid is similar architecture, curated wins, studio content, pregnancy glamour. But the shoebox clip is the leak from the other side, the raw footage of a life that doesn't match the promotional shots. The distance between her posted content and her filmed reality is exactly the distance the audience is now openly commenting on. And once that gap becomes the story, no amount of subsequent glossy posts closes it. The shoebox is a permanent addendum to every future rollout. Public image versus private reality used to be a controllable gap in the pre-live stream era. Magazines curated it. Publicists managed it. The gap existed, but the audience only saw one side of it at a time. Live streams collapse that. Now the gap gets narrated in real time by the subjects themselves in the middle of their worst nights. That's not a moral failure of the individuals. That's a structural feature of a medium that didn't exist for previous celebrity generations, and nobody's figured out how to survive it yet. Which is why every celebrity from this era who tries to run a raw and unfiltered brand eventually hits a moment like this one. The rawness sells until the rawness embarrasses. And then the same audience that demanded the access uses the access as ammunition. That trap isn't specific to Jaidyn or Rock. That trap is the price of entry to the whole category. The read everybody's running with, that this is a scandal about a leaked tape and a messy gender reveal, is the surface reading. It's the easy one. It's the one that gets clicks. Try this one on instead. This whole storyline is a case study in what happens when a generation of hip-hop adjacent women were sold the same lie. That visibility is the same thing as power. That being seen is the same thing as being safe. That turning your pain into content is a form of winning. It ain't. Jaidyn on that live, laughing about lick bags, that's not confidence. That's a woman who's been taught that the second you flinch, they eat you. So she doesn't flinch. She smirks, she monetizes, and somewhere in a bedroom at 3 a.m., the actual human being underneath the brand is on the phone with her partner's mother crying about a video she said didn't rattle her. Both things are true at once. Rock in the shoebox, same disease, different symptom. The performance of thriving while the setup screams the opposite. A gender reveal is supposed to be a moment. Hers became a meme. And instead of adjusting the strategy, the response was to escalate, pull other women into it, get the friends to swarm, drown the shoebox in noise. That's not winning. That's what drowning looks like when you've been told your whole career that stopping to breathe means losing. In the industry, the labels, the managers, the platform algorithms that reward exactly this kind of self-immolation, they don't step in. Because the messier it gets, the more the numbers climb. Karlissa keeps going live. Jaidyn keeps clapping back. Rock keeps posting. Everybody gets paid except the actual people involved, who are trading their piece for a spike up. The opposition read to this is going to be, nah, they're grown, they chose this, let them cook. And sure, adults make adult choices. But that argument conveniently ignores that the machine around them has spent 5 years training them that this is the choice. That the alternative, quiet, private, dignified, doesn't have a monetization plan attached. Blueface, wherever he is, ain't the villain of this story. He ain't the hero either. He's the empty chair everybody's performing around. And the tape? Almost beside the point. The tape is the excuse. The story is what everybody did after. Here's the second unspoken take. The one that only lands once you've sat with the first one for a minute. The audience is complicit. Not passively, actively. The audience is the customer this whole product is built for, and the audience keeps buying. Every time somebody clicks the shoebox clip, watches the Jaidyn live, quote tweets the lick bags line, forwards the Karlissa AI defense screenshot, that's a transaction. That's participation. That's telling the machine, give me more of this. And the machine, being a machine, delivers exactly what the demand curve requests. Which means when the next iteration of this cycle hits, and it will probably by Q3, the correct question isn't, why do they keep doing this? The correct question is, why do we keep watching? Because the doing follows the watching. That's just how markets work. If the audience stopped rewarding the escalation would evolve into something else. It hasn't stopped, so the escalation continues. That's not a moral judgment on the audience. It's just an honest ledger. And here's the third take, the one that only exists once you've accepted the first two. None of these people are the point. That's the part that hurts. Because we treat this like a story about Jaidyn or Rock or Karlissa or Blueface, like the individual personalities are the substance. They're not. They're the delivery mechanism. The substance is the pattern reveals that a specific generation of black women in and adjacent to hip-hop have been offered a specific bargain. Trade privacy for platform, trade dignity for cash flow, trade quiet for relevance. And every time one of them accepts the bargain, the terms get worse for the next one down the line. Rock's public arc made Jaidyn's live possible. Jaidyn's live is making somebody else's future response inevitable. The bar drops. It always drops. And the culture calls the dropping evolution because collapse doesn't sound as marketable. That's the diagnosis. That's what I meant at the top when I said this wasn't scandal. Scandals resolve. Diagnoses metastasize. Watch what happens next. The most likely path, Jaidyn rides the wave for another 2, maybe 3 weeks. She'll drop something. A song, a merch line, a podcast appearance, something that converts the attention into cash before the algorithm forgets. That's the turn it into a bag, promise, and she'll deliver on it, because at this point she has to. The alternative is admitting the smirk was a performance, and she can't afford that admission publicly. Expect a monetization moment inside 21 days. The table flip path. Blueface breaks his silence, but not the way anybody expects. Don't be shocked if the move isn't a diss, isn't a rebuttal, isn't even an acknowledgement of a leak. It's a paternity moment, a co-parenting statement, a photo with the kids, something that resets his brand from humiliated ex to present father and lets the tape story die from oxygen starvation. If he plays it right, he comes out of this the most sympathetic person in the story, which is wild considering where he started the year. The 5-year aftershock. This is the one nobody wants to sit with. Javon and Journey. The kids at the center of all this are going to grow up with a search bar. They're going to type their parents' names one day. They're going to find the shoebox clip, the lick bag quote, the live videos, the AI or not debate, all of it. And the culture that treated their parents' worst weeks as entertainment is going to have to answer to what it built. It won't, obviously, but the residue will be there. It always is. The prediction I'm most confident about. Rock's camp loses the long game here, even if they win the week. Because pulling the friends into it, escalating the noise, doubling down on the roast back energy, that's the exact playbook that ages the worst. 6 months from now, the clips that survive won't be the clapbacks. They'll be the shoebox. The shoebox always wins. Let me stack a few more scenarios on top, because forward motion isn't one lane, it's a fan. Scenario 5. The reconciliation pivot. This is the outcome the audience is quietly rooting for and would immediately turn on if it happened. Jaidyn and Blueface do a full brand rehab. A joint interview, a Versus adjacent moment, a documentary announcement, something that reframes the entire year as chapter 1 of the comeback arc. The tape becomes lore. The lick bag quote becomes an inside joke on a podcast episode 2 years from now. Redemption stories monetize harder than scandal stories in the long run because they run twice. Once through the fall, once through the rise. Watch the timeline for signs of that pivot around month 6. Scenario 6. The legal turn. Somebody, and I'd bet on Karlissa's camp, files a takedown, a cease and desist, or floats a defamation posture publicly. Not because it wins in court, because it wins in the news cycle. The moment lawyers get named, the tone of the coverage shifts from gossip to litigation, and litigation tone gives the family a way to reclaim seriousness they can't reclaim on live. That's a strategic reset available at any time. And it's the kind of move that gets rolled out when the memes start hurting more than help. Scenario 7. The Rock rollout that never lands. Rock's camp has been signaling music for months. The Shoebox Week might be the moment the rollout stalls, because the audience she'd be pitching to is now more interested in her personal chaos than her creative output. That's the tragic outcome for her specifically. The art gets buried under the storyline was supposed to fund. Every artist who's spent the past decade trying to convert notoriety in a catalog knows how thin that margin is. Rock's about to find out where the edge sits. Scenario 8. The audience fatigue break. This is the wild card. At some point, the same viewers who fueled 400 million impressions on this story get tired of it. Not morally, just tired. And when the fatigue hits, it hits fast. The numbers drop. The algorithm depriorities the participants, and everybody involved has to figure out what they are without the drama supporting the platform. That's the moment careers actually get made or lost. Not this week. Not the leak. The fatigue break is where you find out who has an actual craft under the noise. And most of these participants, this is the honest read. Most of them don't, which is why the noise has to keep escalating. Because the noise is the product. Long-term, the industry effect is going to be a subtle recalibration. Not immediately and not visibly, but over the next 24 months, you'll see the mid-tier of hip-hop adjacent influencer women start hiring different kinds of managers, media coaches, crisis PR retainers, digital forensics vendors. This week's chaos becomes next quarter's business school case study on why untrained personal brands fail under leak pressure. That's the boring outcome nobody's talking about, and it's the one that actually matters for the next generation trying to build in this lane. And the audience memory effect. This is where I want to close. 6 years from now, when a completely new hip-hop scandal breaks and somebody in the comments references the shoebox era, nobody's going to have to explain what they mean. That's how these moments preserve themselves. They become shorthand. They become the reference point future writers point to when a similar week hits. The shoebox is going to outlive every song any of these people release this year. That's not a diss. That's just what happens when a symbol lands harder than the discography. The shoebox always wins. I said it once already. I'll say it again because it's the through line of the entire diagnosis. In a culture that spends billions on production value, the artifact that survives is the one that got caught being real. Not staged real, actually real. And once you understand that, you understand why everybody in this story is fighting so hard to control which real gets remembered. They can't. That fight is already lost. The shoebox is already in the archive. Everything from here is aftermath. If this is the read you came looking for, you already know the move, like subscribe, hit the bell, and stay locked in. Part 2 is loading, and you don't want to catch it late.